and thanks for listening. This is Sherry Andrea, and this is Video Diary number 6. Um, Thank you if you've been listening all along from the very beginning. I've tried to make the videos as short as possible because, as you know, I've made quite a lot of videos that are very long. So, um, I can go on and on about topics, about subjects, and they take on a life of their own. They go where they want to go, especially when your higher self gets involved. So, one of the things that I want to talk to you about today is adjusting to the new you when it comes to friends and people that are in your life. And I'm going to use some personal examples. I'm not going to use any names to protect the innocent. Okay, so anyway, first I want to mention something, and I think that many of you probably can relate to this. The majority of my life, I was pretty invisible the majority of my life. By that I mean that I remember as a child just feeling very invisible, very unnoticed. Um, Literally, I could be that person that was in the room that everyone would literally. I can remember times when even my parents would be like, "Where's Sherry? Where's Sherry? And I'd be sitting like right there. Um, I Most of my life I felt pretty invisible. Um, it was a torturous thing, I remember. Um, and there are some things that you're going to remember, as you spiritually grow and you become this new person. There are some things you're going to look back on and you're literally going to ponder and you're going to think, wow, most of my life I felt this way or I felt that way, and now all of a sudden I'm this new person and I don't feel that way anymore. I'm not the person that feels invisible, that feels alone. Now I'm that person that actually embraces and loves it when I can be invisible. The fact that I can do that, the fact that I can go unnoticed. It's so funny that now I like the idea of that. I can actually go unnoticed. And going unnoticed sometimes, I notice now, um, gives you a little bit of peace. Because, when you're on your spiritual path, there's, first of all, a period of time where you're awakening to all these new things. And you really want to talk about it. You want to discuss it with somebody. You want to share it. You're excited about it, and for a period of time, you really have no one to talk to. You eventually get to that point where, you've tried to talk to family, you've tried to talk to friends, and you get tired of those comments they give you, like, oh, there goes Sherry again talking about that crazy stuff. You'll end up hearing things that people say about you and ending up feeling kind of hurt by it. I can remember one of my high school friends, finding her on Facebook, and I remember it was so exciting. I'm not going to mention her name, but it was really exciting for me to find her. I mean, I was so happy. We had lost touch after high school, but we had been so close during high school, and I want to say probably right after high school. So it was exciting, but then we had some mutual friends in common from back then. And I can remember her telling me, oh yeah, and she's referring to this person who was my best friend, saying, oh yeah, her and her husband, they're always talking about you, always saying, oh yeah, Sherry's crazy, Sherry's this, Sherry's that. And I don't know, to hear those things said about you from somebody who you really cared about and you really thought cared about you, it was it was an experience that really, it affects you. It's like you start to get this light bulb going off, this wake up call, like somebody shaking you, going, come on, wake up. You know, these relationships are one-sided. The love that you feel, what you feel in your heart for this person, they're not feeling that for you. It's even coming out in what they say to people about you. They're literally saying things that are very hurtful and disrespectful. And at first you're just hurt by it. But then eventually when you get over just being hurt, constantly, hurt by this, hurt by that, hurt by things people say all the time, you do finally get to a point where you start to kind of wake up and go, you know what, I'm not the same person I used to be. I am this new person. And I don't match up anymore to the things of my past. Past friends, past relationships, trying to get back with exes. There's a reason why you're your ex. They may be this different person now. Yeah, true. But they probably haven't changed enough for how much you've changed as far as what you've gone through and where you've come to on your spiritual journey and your spiritual path. Friends from the past are really difficult. Once you start heading down, working on yourself spiritually and you start heading down that road, friends from your past become difficult to connect with. The reason why is because they do end up seeing you still as the person they used to know. And often they don't let go of that. You have to understand that. They continue kind of looking at you and thinking of you as that person you used to be, not the person you are now. Almost to the point where, you wonder, are their eyes not open? Do they not see that I'm not that person anymore? And in a way, they still want you to be that person for them. Like, I had ex-boyfriends that still wanted me to be that person I used to be. Because that person was very naive, giving in a very blind way. I used to be that person who could be treated bad repeatedly, and I would just keep giving. And that's the person they still wanted me to be. And eventually, I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn the hard way that they're not changing. They're not even changing as far as seeing me for who I am now. So I have to let them go. They're still caught up in the past. They're still stuck in the past as far as what they see. Their eyes aren't open. They can't see who I am now. They don't have the ability to. It's nobody's fault. It's just the reality is that you may be working on yourself, but the people in your life, the people who used to be in your life, if they're not working on themselves and they're not advancing and changing and growing, well, they don't have the ability to see what's going on with you. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they can't. They can only see the truth at the level they're at. Now, you may have grown, and your eyes may be wide open. You may be able to see things in a way that you never have before. But that is not going to be the case with everybody in your life. Okay, now even new people that you meet, same thing with new people that you meet. A lot of these people are, I have a lot of neighbors that I really like. They're really nice. If they needed my help, if they rang my doorbell, yeah, I would help them. But the reality is that they're living life and they're seeing things and they're basing everything on their beliefs, their understandings, the level where they're at. And we're at on a very different level. And there's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that blindness they have. I can't, and you shouldn't take it personal. Sometimes it can be very hard not to take it personal, because sometimes things will come out of their mouth that are just like you're looking at them like, I can't believe you just said that, and that you don't know that was like kind of hurtful, or that was a little over the line, and but the truth is they are so self-centered within themselves. They're so stuck in their own beliefs, the way they see things. They're seeing so much from their own perspective that they just don't have the ability to see you for who you are, to see the truth. And it's going to be hard because you're going to be trying to associate with them, communicate with them, all the while seeing from a different perspective. Now, it may not lead to you having arguments and things. It may not lead to you having bad communication with them. But the one thing that it will lead to a lot is a lot of times 15, 20 minutes spent with them will leave you feeling a little frustrated, will leave you feeling a little let down. You don't come away from the experience feeling good, like, oh, so happy they came over, we had a chance to talk. It's not going to really leave you feeling like that. Sometimes it'll even leave you feeling like, you know what, I could take it or leave it. Whether they come over, whether they associate with me, I could take it or leave it. Eventually, you will get to the point where you will be able to make those decisions. You will be able to trim the fat in your life, so to speak. You will be able to get better at realizing what things no longer fit in your life, people that no longer fit in your life. Some of them will be friends, and some may be friends that you've had for a while. Understand this. You may be thinking, or a friend of yours may think, that it's wrong or that it's hurtful to let somebody in your life go, to say, I need to move on from you because we're no longer a match. You're no longer what serves, who I am best. You're no longer good for where I'm at in my life. Some people would actually tell you, oh, well, that's wrong. That's hurtful. I don't see how you could be a spiritual person and do something like that. I've been told that. I remember my neighbor, she would often, and this is, to be fair, this was while she was going through an addiction. So I realized some of the issues that she was having and that they were very much, so I thought, based on her addiction problem. Where, she would call and she'd need a favor, trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to get back up on my feet, I could use your help. But I slowly began to realize that she's making bad decisions. And then, bottom line, she's just simply making bad decisions, and then you almost using her addiction as an excuse with people to get help, because, oh, we're going to feel sorry for her. We're going to feel like, when she says those key magic words, oh, I'm trying to get back on my feet, I'm trying to do better, and I could use all the help from everyone I could get, I could use all the support. I gradually began to realize she's throwing those things out all the time because there's a part of her that's using people to be able to continue to make bad decisions in her life. So eventually, I was like actually out with my son. We're sitting down at a restaurant, getting something to eat, and I decided to, make him happy because he's like, oh, I want to go somewhere and eat. So literally, we had just sat down, to eat, and I get a phone call from her. And I knew that there was a party that she'd been invited to, a cousin of hers, that they hadn't been speaking for a while, last 2-3 years. And I remember this was a cousin that was very close to her, that was very important to her. And finally, the cousin had opened back up again and they'd started to talk again. The cousin invited her to a party she was having at her house, which I think was a birthday party. And this was going to be the first time they really saw each other and associated with each other in person for a while. And so it was important to her. So what she does is she gets her hair dyed and she likes to go get her nails done and she'll get her eyebrows waxed, all that, all the stuff we ladies like to do, right? So she does that, but instead of doing it like the day before the party, she decides to go and do it hours before the party. Not days, not the morning of, but just hours before, right? So I get a call. Well, me and my son have just sat down to dinner, and she's just like, yes, she starts with the usual spiel. You know how important it is to me, and how much I appreciate friends in my life, and how supportive they are, and you know how much I need the help. And when you know how you were even saying how important, getting my relationship back with my cousin is to me. Okay, now she's using my own words against me. But that's the addiction talking. People who suffer from an addiction, they do get to the point where they become really good manipulators, really good liars. And that's the thing. She was the master manipulator, which I later found out wasn't really a part of the addiction. But anyway, and then as I'm listening to her and she explains to me how she was currently at the hairdresser and she was nowhere near done. And she was getting her hair trimmed, her hair colored, all this. And she said to me, but my cousin had said, because she couldn't drive, because it's not that her license was taken away. She has one of those things you have to blow into on her car. And it was very difficult for her to start. And her cousin had offered to come pick her up, to come get her for the party. And I think that was pretty nice of her cousin to do. Her cousin's throwing a party, and I'm sure her cousin had lots and lots to do and prepare for. But her cousin had said, no, I'm going to come get you. And, of course, a respectful thing that you want to do is be ready, right? When your cousin comes to get you. But she's not going to be ready because she's still at the hairdresser. She's nowhere near done. And she has concocted this whole thing where if I do her this favor and I take her to the party and she just lets her cousin know I'm going to take her there, and then her cousin can bring her back. Now, she wants me to leave what I'm doing right now to get ready to go take her to this party. I'm sitting there with my son. And I'm like thinking to myself, I know what this is. You know what I mean? I'm not fooled by this. I know what's going on. I know what the problem is. And I told her, I said, what? You're actually getting your hair colored and everything right now? And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no offense, but that's probably something you should have gotten done yesterday. Or made an early morning appointment for. Did you really think this timing was going to work out okay? And I shouldn't have had to ask that question, because doing the math, common sense, kind of told me, no, she would have had to know. She wouldn't have had enough time, but she did it anyway, because she's used to people now bailing her out, helping her and solving her problems. So she just feels like she can do whatever she wants to. Somebody's going to save me. So I said no. I said I can't. I'm with my son. We just sat down to eat. There's going to be no way possible. I said, really, honestly, I'm sorry, but and I don't know, call it right or wrong, but I actually did say to her that this is an example of what she really needs to work on, making better decisions, making better choices, because she creates her own reality. Well, that didn't go over well. and she got really snotty with me. And, I said, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to do this anymore. You know, I know when I'm being used and manipulated. And I basically told her, I said, you know what? Don't call me anymore. Don't call me. I can't help you. Have a nice life. And that was it. And later on, I was very hurt to hear her mother say, oh, she considers herself to be spiritual. She can possibly be spiritual if she just basically said she no longer wants to be associated with you. That's not what a spiritual person does. So, there's a lot of people that are under the impression that if you're on a spiritual path, that you're supposed to be this person that is like the perception most people must have of the Pope. Willing to be used and keep kissing people's hands. You know what I mean? Willing to be used and continuing to let people come in. Well, that's the Pope. The Pope does that. You continue to be a bad person, but every time you come to him, he's not going to refuse you. He's going to let you come forward and he's going to bless you. But that's the Pope. That's not me. That's not you. That's the Pope. Okay? The Pope. So you have to get to that point in your life where even though you're going to be judged for the actions that you take, you may end up being judged because you put your foot down, because you get to that point where you clearly see this isn't a healthy relationship, where you get to that point where you say, no, this relationship isn't in balance with me and what I have going on and where I'm going. You have to do that for yourself. Why? Because it is very important. And I tell my son this all the time. It is very important that you respect the life God gave you. To not respect the life God gave you is almost like not to respect God. You have to respect yourself, every part of you. It's just like saying you have to take care of yourself physically, health-wise. You got to take care of yourself because it's a matter of that's like the ultimate, giving the ultimate respect and showing how much you appreciate what you've been given, the life you've been given, this opportunity to be incarnate and to work on your spiritual advancement, your spiritual progress, to show how much you appreciate it. It's not enough to say it. A lot of people say things. We see them on Facebook all the time, right? We see all the memes and everything, and you've seen all the ones that I do. But there is a point where for you it has to become more than just words. Words don't cut it. I don't care how many times I hear you put up a meme saying, I feel blessed by God and I'm thankful. Jesus died for my sin. I don't care. You can put up 10,000 of those memes every day. But in the end, it is your actions that are what tells the truth about you and about who you are. It's the actions. Even the actions in protecting what God gave you by saying, this relationship is no longer healthy for me. It may be a best friend, and you may be saying, well, Sherry, but this is my best friend. I love her. We've known each other since kindergarten. Of course, I would never leave her. Of course, I would never stop talking to her. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you to make you feel better and say you're absolutely right, because you're wrong. You're wrong. And I'm sorry, that's bad karma for me to tell you you're wrong. It is. It's getting into the little nitpicky details about karma. It is karmically wrong to tell somebody that they're wrong. But what I'm saying is that you can still love someone, regardless of if you ever see them again, ever speak to them again. Love comes from here. Love isn't something that is just proven in some action that you're doing, physical action, like picking up the phone and talking to them. That doesn't necessarily prove your love for them. It just proves you have the ability to sit there on the phone. You have the ability to actually use a phone. That's what that proves. But to actually love somebody, to prove you love somebody, that's not something that can be seen anyway. It comes from in here. It doesn't require you to ever say a word to them, to ever talk to them, to love them. So you cannot sit up here and tell me, oh, I would never do that. I would never, say, okay, it's time to move on from this relationship because this is my best friend. Well, then guess what you're doing? You're literally sacrificing yourself and God for that relationship. Look, to be on a spiritual path requires a lot of sacrifice. One of the things that you will sacrifice is basically everything. You will sacrifice everything. Everything that is not God, you have to be willing to sacrifice. Everything that is not universal energy, that is not source, that's not God, that's not Buddha, that's not Allah, whatever, you will sacrifice. You have to be willing to sacrifice. Now, this may be something that you think about every day to wrap your mind around it. Ponder this once a day, every day. Am I ready to do this? Think of the things, all the different things. Am I ready to literally sacrifice them for my spiritual path? Am I willing to sacrifice my best friend? The relationship I have with my children, that because some of you don't have a great relationship with your children. Some of you, your children are maybe in their 20s, 30s, and they're acting like, excuse my French, jackasses, and they're not calling you, they're not speaking to you, they're not treating you good. All you want to do is love them, and they're off acting like a jackass somewhere. Well, it's okay. You know what? You have sincere and true love for them. Somewhere deep down inside, underneath the layers of crap, they have real, true, sincere love for you as well. You have to believe it, though. If you actually really believed it, you would be okay with whatever relationship you had with them. You know what I mean? If you actually believe that to be true, if you believed based on not just their actions that you see in your experience, but just what the truth is, and that you didn't get tripped up by actually some of the things they do, you'd be able to be at peace about your relationship with them. You could go for a period of time without talking to them. Now, some of you will say to me, oh, that's just horrible. No, I couldn't. I could never. And I don't know what mother could. You can say that all you want to. Maybe the spiritual path in this lifetime is not for you. I don't know. Maybe you're not going to be able to make all the sacrifices you need to make. Maybe you're not going to be. But it's not making these sacrifices and getting to this point where you understand that there's periods of time where you have to look and you have to say, this is not in balance with who I am and where I'm going, and I just need to let this relationship go. This isn't something that you can come to with your mind. This isn't something you can rationalize with your mind and come to this and be okay with it. This is something that is pondered over time that you gradually can get to, and you should take your time with it. You shouldn't be trying to force yourself to get to that point. But definitely, you should be pondering it. You might be sitting there saying right now, oh, sure, I could never do this. I could never turn away from my best friend. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to ponder the thought of it. Ponder the different perspectives. I know you have your own belief, but what I'm asking you to do is, in addition to your belief, I'm asking you to ponder and look outside the box. At least ponder it. At least meditate on it. If you're not willing to, you will never come to this new place, this new level of understanding about it. So at least just be willing to ponder it. But there are going to be times when, and I'm going to explain this to you before we go. I'm going to explain this to you what happens when it comes to, let's say, best friends. Okay, and I'll use one of my best friendships as an example. I have a best friend. We've been best friends for, probably 30 years now. I remember when we first met, we met through work. I had just started at this company, and I remember she couldn't stand me. She hated me. And even now she tells the story sometimes to people. She's like, yeah, when I first met Sherry, I couldn't stand her. I hated her. I couldn't stand to see her coming. She goes, and now she's like, we've been best friends for like 30 years. But the thing is that when you're on a spiritual path and you're advancing and you're raising your vibrations, okay, it's like this. Me and her, we were like right here. Okay, we were right here. We're on same level, right? We're right here. I mean, we had a lot of the same things in common. We liked a lot of the same things. We thought a lot of the same ways, right? So we're right here. Oh, sorry. So we're right here. Okay, so what generally happens is as you start working on yourself and working on, doing all your spiritual work, this is you. You start to raise your vibrations. You see what's happening, right? You see that little gap? That little gap. That doesn't cause much trouble. It doesn't make much difference. But wait. Look, you see what's happening, right? Now, you may still be talking to each other a lot. You may still be talking to each other every night. But you're starting to feel it. Now, the conversation that she wants to have, it's not so much making you happy. The conversation you want to have, she doesn't really get. It's like you're talking two different languages. You see what's happening? The gap is getting bigger. Imagine that this was a distance away from each other. Like at here, you're pretty much standing right in front of you. Here, she's just standing right across the street. You can still yell, and she can still hear you. Here, okay, now she's down the road a little bit, but still if you yell loud enough, she can hear you. Here, oh, wait a minute, she's a couple miles away. Can she hear you even if you're yelling at the top of your lungs a couple miles away? No, guess what? She can't hear you. This is the gap that there is between you. Now, you could choose to try to hold on. But sometimes it's at this point that you have to say, I really love her. I really care about her. I'll always love her. But we've completed what we were meant to do together. We were meant to come together to help each other with certain lessons. And me and my friend, we were like soulmates. We were meant in this lifetime to come together and to help each other with certain things in life. And we completed that. We did that. We did what we set out to do in this lifetime with each other. And so when it was time to move on, and this is where people usually have a problem, not only with friendships, but with relationships. You didn't come together for your pure enjoyment. You came together because you had agreed to come together to help each other with certain lessons. And those lessons are sometimes tough. It's sometimes the very lessons that you're struggling with now. He doesn't call. He never wants to take me out. I haven't seen him for 2 weeks. He hasn't called for 2 weeks. Guess what? The frustrations that you have are probably what you had agreed to come together in the lessons that you'd come together to work on. but you're actually wanting them to be solved. You're wanting to not have these issues. You're wanting them to be solved and over so that you can do the, oh, we're happily ever after. Knight in shining armor, we're going to ride off into the sunset. But that's not what you had planned and agreed to come together for. You'd actually planned and agreed to come together to help each other with some lessons you had to learn. Life isn't just for your pure enjoyment. Think of this world as a school. You didn't incarnate here just to have fun. You actually incarnated here. Think of this world as being like a college. Do you actually sign up and go to college to have fun? That's often what happens. But that's not actually what you sign up for. Didn't you sign up to learn? Don't you sign on to college, go to college for 4 years because you want to learn, you want to get a degree, and you want to be able to, then be able to do something with your life, right? You didn't sign up to go to college just to have fun. And I'm sure your parents didn't send you there just to have fun. Well, you didn't come to this world just to have fun either. You didn't come to this world just to have this perfect, knight in shining armor, Cinderella type relationship where you get together and then you ride off into the sunset. Oh, happily ever after. No, because you wouldn't learn anything from that. I mean, it would be nice, but you wouldn't learn anything. So you signed up for this. But most people, the very thing that they're supposed to learn a lesson from, they're steadily usually trying to run away from it. So you have to understand to begin with, you came together to help each other with some lessons. And if you look at some of your relationships, you'll probably see we've probably served the purpose of what we were supposed to do in this lifetime. I still love that person and that person still loves me. But it's time for me to now move on. And if I need to focus on my spiritual growth, it's time for me to move on. Now, here's the thing. Where was it? Here. If she chooses to, now your vibrations are up here. Hers are here. Okay? Now, the whole time you're still dealing with each other, you're like a magnet. You're going to be pulling up on her. You're going to be steadily pulling up on her. Because you can't come down to her. No, you can't do that. You don't go like this. You don't go, oh, I'm going to see you today. Okay, I'll come down. No, you always stay up here. Wherever you're at, you stay there. She feels a pull up. It's like you're the magnet and she constantly is feeling this pull. Sometimes this pull causes symptoms like headaches, dizziness for this person. She's going to feel that constant pull. She can come up if she wants to, but that's her choice for her to come up. And sometimes that does happen with friends, with relationships. They do decide to, start working on themselves, and they do start to work their way up, and that's great. But if that doesn't happen, you literally have to be ready to, with a smile on your face, move on. Be thankful for what you had with the person, for what it gave you, and for what you learned from it. And move on now. It's time. So I hope this video about relationships, I know I only kind of scratched the surface. I could go on and on about examples, personal examples I could use. I know it only scratches the surface, but at least it starts to get you thinking. It also, for some of you, maybe it will explain some things that have been going on with you. And maybe we'll discuss it more in the future. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If you're looking for me, you can find me at SherrySpeaks.com. You can go to the website, you can get a reading, you can get a coaching session, you can get an attunement, or Reiki attunement, also custom attunement certificates, and of course the blog is there. There's lots for you to read, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Namaste.